What up, you beautiful nerds? This week, we're gonna break down character sheets. So, the first thing, when you are looking at your character sheet, you know, when you roll those 4d6 and you drop the lowest, on the left-hand side are gonna be your stats. So, stats go up or down 1 on even numbers. Base is 10, that's going to be 0. So as you go down, every 2 stats, it's going to be minus 1 for every 2. So at 8, it would be a minus 1. At 6, it would be a minus 2, etc. And then opposite going up. So a 12 would be a plus 1, 14 would be plus 2, and so on up to 20. Plus any magical items and fancy things that you may have to make it higher than that. So those are your stats. Proficiency bonus will go up as you level up, and that's going to be in the fancy little box marked proficiency bonus. And then whenever you look at the fancy chart for leveling up your character, it should tell you what your proficiency bonus is on that chart per your level. Below that, you are going to see saving throws. So all your saving throws are going to be right there based on your stats to the left. And then below your saving throws, your skills. This is a standard character sheet, by the way. There are other kinds. But looking at the base character sheet, this is where everything should be. So below your saving throws should be your skills. And then if any of your saving throws or skills have that little circle filled in next to them, it means that you are proficient. So you not only get to add the appropriate stat, but you also would get to add your proficiency bonus to those little ones with the dot filled in. Below that is going to be your passive perception, and it's basically just 10 plus your perception skill. So if you have proficiency in that, you would get bonuses and stuff. Otherwise, it's just going to be the straight 10 plus whatever your wisdom stat is, since it's a wisdom-based thing. In the center column of your character sheet at the very top, you are going to have your armor class to the left. Typically, it's 10 plus dex if you're unarmored, and if you do have armor, on page 145, it's going to have all the different kinds of armor and, you know, how that changes your armor class. And also, if you're carrying a shield, it increases your armor class by 2. So if you can carry a shield, that's always nice. The only bad thing is it leaves you only one free hand to attack with. Initiative is based on your dexterity, plus if you have any bonuses to initiative, because there are some stuff that alter that. So next to your initiative in the center column is going to be your speed, which most creatures have a walking speed of 30 feet, but that can vary a little bit up or down based on your race and class and any bonuses that those give to you for your speed. But as a general rule, 30 feet is pretty standard. Below that, you are going to have your hit points. There's going to be a hit point maximum, and then a large section for you to write current hit points, do math and stuff. Personally, I like to put a sticky note there so that I'm not erasing constantly and then putting a hole through my character sheet. I do like to use paper character sheets. I know a lot of people like to use apps on their phones or iPads these days, but there is nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned paper character sheet. It's kind of magical. So, a sticky note will save your character sheet if you choose to go the old-fashioned way. Below that, you have a section for temporary hit points again. Sticky note. It's nice. Helpful, clean. Below that, you are going to have a section for hit dice. You should have a number of hit dice equal to your level. If you are dual classing in different things, you may have different types of hit dice. The type of hit die is based off of your class. So when you build your character, it should tell you what hit die you should be using, whether it's a D8 or a D6 or a D12, just whatever that happens to be. And then next to that, you're going to see death saves. So let's talk about death saves just really quickly for some people who may or may not understand how this works. Typically when you drop to 0 hit points, you're going to start rolling a d20 on your turn if nobody does anything to help you or stabilize you. Your comrades can do a medicine check, DC 10, to automatically stabilize you. You do not wake up, but you are at least not bleeding out and dying anymore. So that's nice. But you would roll a d20. Let's do it. Let's roll some death saving throws. So, I roll a d20. Oh, a natural 1. So, of course I would have to get the special thing happen to me. Natural 1 means I automatically fail 2 death saving throws. If I fail a third, I die. So then on my next turn, 10, that is a save. So I have 1 save, 2 fails. If I reach 3 on either of those, 3 successes means I'm stabilized. 3 failures means I'm dead. Dead. 19, so another save. So we're even, 2 and 2. 19, I'm stabilized. But then I would roll a d4 to see how many hours it takes before I wake up with 1 hit point. Now, if I had rolled a natural 20, I automatically stabilize with 1 hit point and wake up. So, natural 1, automatically 2 fails. Natural 20, automatically wake up with 1 hit point. Oh, the joys of Dungeons and Dragons. Below that, you are going to have your weapons and equipment. Attacks and spellcasting. Get a spell sheet, people. So typically I just put my weapons in the attacks and spellcasting box below my death saving throws and hit dice. And I marked everything, guys, in my books. So on page 149, you're going to see the chart for all of your weapons. Just fill out that sheet as best as it applies to you. Whatever weapons you happen to be using, just put them into the name sections. And then for attacks, general rolls. Most melee attacks are strength-based, and then most ranged attacks, so things like bows and javelins that you're thrown or shot, would be dexterity-based. And then if you are proficient in those weapons, meaning that you're trained in them, you get to add your proficiency bonus to the attack. So then you would get your, if it's a sword attack and you're proficient with swords, you would get, say with this character, has a strength +3 and proficiency +2. So when they made a sword attack, they would have +5 to attack, but then when they rolled their damage, short sword's a d6, so it would be a d6 +3, which is their strength mod. So you would add just the modifier. So you get modifier plus proficiency to attack, and then just modifier for damage, plus your die roll. And below your attacks and spell casting section, there's going to be a space for all of your gold and also your equipment. So I usually just list out my equipment there, and then you have your spaces for your gold. So nice and handy. Pretty straightforward. And to the left of that, at the bottom of that first column, is going to be a section for proficiencies in languages. So I usually just list everything out there in case I have a question later, so I'm not digging through my book to get answers for my dungeon master. So in that far right column, the first couple boxes at the top, the first 4 are going to have different personality traits, ideals, bonds, that kind of thing. I know some players who don't use them, they're not as big into the roleplay, but if you're big into roleplaying your character, there's a whole section for helping you to pick some of those out in the background section of the player's handbook. Backgrounds start on page 125. So if you want to pick out some cool role-playing characteristics for yourself, those are going to be in the background section of your player's handbook for whatever background that you chose for your character. And then, finally, we have features and traits. So this is going to be anything special that your character is getting as they level up. So, for instance, I'm using, for a guide, one of the character sheets from the starter set that we looked at a couple weeks ago. This just happens to be the human fighter. So it's got like second wind fighting style, which they chose defense for this character, and position of privilege, which is a background characteristic. And they just have everything kind of listed out there with some basic notes so that they remember that they have that and what it does. So typically I will do that as well. This character does not have a spell sheet, but there are spell sheets for 5e. I highly recommend them just because it kind of breaks everything down for you nice and clean, where you can see it. You've got spots for your spell slots, and then all the spells you have prepared, and there's the little dots next to them so you can fill in which ones are prepared for that day, depending on what type of caster that you are. And then at the top, it has all your spell save DCs, your attack bonuses, and all that jazz, which is very nice. Oh, also, as a dungeon master, if you are going to have a character sheet, I highly also recommend filling out basic information for the spells that you use regularly, such as range, casting time, and damage. Please, pretty please. Also, what kind of saves, if there are any saving throws for spells that you do, or half damage. Just some basic notes. And it's just, like, one line. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. Just help yourself and help me. So we're not spending half this session looking things up. I hate that. Pretty sure everyone hates that. So there you have it. That's a basic breakdown of character sheets for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. I hope you guys found this helpful. And until next time, keep it rolling, adventurers.